Hello and welcome to Season 2 of On the Road With. My name's Gareth and I'll be your host. For those of you that are joining me for the first time today, this show is all about talking to touring professionals in the performing arts and entertainment industries about the realities of life on the road, what it's meant for their mental health, the people they've worked with and how they got started. I'd like to thank you all sincerely for your support for the show so far. If you haven't already, you can like my page on Facebook or follow me on Instagram or Twitter. It's Gareth John Music on those platforms, and I'll be posting updates about the show on those platforms. You can also like, follow and subscribe wherever you get your podcast fix. Now, today's guest is a first for me. It's somebody who isn't necessarily on the front line, but somebody who's an event manager and event planner, now working freelance. They used to work for an organisation called Artreach, and they've also set up a website during lockdown called Eye on Leicester, locally, where they interview different people. A bit like this, they interview different artists and creatives. So sit back and enjoy my conversation with Mr. Oli Page. Oli, thanks for doing this.
No, thanks for having me.
So how's the lockdown treating you, first of all? How are things looking at the minute? Have you had to adapt in terms of the way you work, or have things stayed the same, or how's it looking?
It's a bit of a strange one. I think I'm a bit of an odd case because so I work freelance in the arts. So I've only been freelance in September.
Yeah, I remember when you left sort of employment and took the lunge out into the self-employed world sort of thing.
Yeah, no, I thought to myself, right, I'll give it a year and see how I get on. Obviously, I wasn't thinking there was going to be a global pandemic.
No, you picked a great year to do it, yeah.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where now you look at it and kind of go, oh, I've not got a monthly income. It's kind of as straightforward as that, and that probably would have been quite useful at this point. Yeah, even if I was working for somewhere and got furloughed, and that would still be workable. But so it's been a bit of a strange thing. But I've got used to working from home, so that in itself it doesn't feel like a massive change in terms of how I work. It's just that the work has gone a little bit quieter, as you'd expect, because primarily working in events and outdoor events. That's been bit of a change.
Yeah, so that leads quite nicely on outdoor events. Is mainly how I know you, obviously through one of my bands being very much suited to that. With the Brastards being very much a roaming type act, and we've worked together on a few things. I was thinking about it in the lead up to the interview. I don't think I've ever actually been on a gig that you've organised. I think it's always been a case of I've already been on tour when it's come in,
yes,
or what have you. So bit of a strange one, because I feel like I know you really well, but I've never actually worked with you on the day sort of thing. But obviously we've communicated in the lead up and afterwards and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And one of the things I wanted to just touch on is how you think. I usually do this at the end of the interview, but I'll do it now because we're on that subject, is how you think it's going to look for those sort of events that you did. If you could explain what those are and how it might look for that coming out of this.
Yeah, so I work predominantly in not-for-profit events, usually outdoor arts, and kind of across multiple genres and art forms. And really, the main focus of my work in my career has been in low engagement areas of the arts. So people who aren't kind of used to seeing things on a week-to-week basis. And we go in, usually it's quite intervention style, so like pop up on the high street and just catch people whilst they're shopping, like when we've had Brastards before, say in Corby or in Hounslow. Those events were very much like built up a bit of a following, having done it for multiple years, but basically it's kind of like, here we are, big, exciting, loud noises, bright lights, come and have a look. And then
showtime sort of thing, yeah.
Yeah, and then crack on with your shopping, that kind of thing. And obviously that's not possible at the moment in the climate. But I think what people will see, and the kind of people that I see in my networks, is that people are kind of prepping themselves for a celebration period when they're able to do it again. But I think it will be a slow transition, because lockdown isn't going to be the end of it. It's going to be lockdown, then there's going to be a transition into still social distancing, so people there's a lot of uncertainty in terms of when things are going to start again. People are going from talking about, oh, we're going to kick things off in September again, or they're going to say, well, we can't do anything until 2021.
Yeah.
And it's all a bit up in the air.
I don't think it's going to be as straightforward as okay, September the 1st, brilliant. Let's just go back to normal. I don't think it's going to work like that.
I think a lot of people are going to. I think once the go ahead is given to kind of restart things, I think people are going to be a little bit apprehensive.
Yeah, they will be. Yeah.
I know I'm going to be. It's something that is going to take getting used to again. Me and my girlfriend were talking the other day about how we both kind of accepted what was happening quite quickly, and that made it easier to transition into kind of how we're currently living. But that then means that there's a bigger climb back out of that once everything goes back to a sense of normality.
Yeah. I mean, it's I guess from your point of view, working in the not-for-profit events, and they're quite often government funded or grant funded, and that sort of thing. What I'm getting at is they don't always, well, very rarely. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think very rarely they don't rely on the public putting their hand in their pocket and coming to, members of the public. Sort of buying tickets and stuff.
Yeah, I think in my career I've probably worked on a handful of events that have involved a ticket price. Usually free access, because the whole idea of kind of engaging with low engagement communities is that they're not necessarily going to have the disposable income to go in and pay for something that's going to be of a kind of normal ticket price.
That's right. Yeah.
So so a lot of the work that I do and a lot of my colleagues do is kind of based around Arts Council funding, but then also National Lottery, and then also individual grants and kind of specific regional things as well.
Do you think the likes of the Arts Council and the other regional funds you refer to, do you think coming out of this they're going to be going, right, okay, we need to get some more? I'm talking about once things are completely back to, in inverted commas, normal. Do you think they're going to go all guns blazing, or will they be cautious? Or because I know for people dipping their hand in their pocket, that it is going to be a cautious time and it's going to be a slow getting back. But how do you think it's going to be in terms of public funding?
Definitely. I think that from what I know and from what I've seen, the Arts Council have been really supportive of individuals and organisations. So I used to work
I've seen that as well.
Yeah, I used to work for a national portfolio organisation, Artreach, and so just kind of keeping track on what was going on there. The Arts Council were very much supportive of NPOs and of their other funded organisations, and basically they've kind of come out and said, we are going to support you. There's going to be certain criteria that they're going to lift on, because NPOs have got a level of criteria that they have to hit for their funding. So, but they've generally been a bit more flexible and a bit looser on that in terms of timescales, which is really useful.
Yeah.
And so they've basically said, we know that this is basically an impossible target at the moment to hit. So we're going to loosen that up a bit, give it a bit of time, give you that flexibility to kind of get where you need to go, especially with NPOs, because they're kind of in a 4-year period before the new changes come in. And I think there were due some new guidance and some new guidelines coming out from next year anyway.
Right.
So I think they've been quite flexible in that, which is really good to see, because they could easily have just said, well, this is the period, this is what you agreed to. Sorry, there's nothing we can do about it.
Could have been hard line about it, couldn't they? Yeah.
Yeah. What the term I've seen quite a lot is resilience funding. So a lot of places have had funds postponed, and then in the place they've then created a new fund for resilience. So specifically, the example that I'm thinking of is working in community cinema, which is something that I do quite a lot. There was a few to the Film Hub Midlands is one of the kind of the leading funding bodies in community cinema and exhibition, and they've released a new resilience fund to kind of help those organisations who are kind of already established to kind of keep going before they open up their new projects strands again.
Yeah, the I've seen it in the music world as well as help musicians. The cases I've heard about from other musicians have been fantastic, where they've filled in an application and it's straight away there's been support. There's both financial and other support as well, whether it's mental health or emotional support or practical support as well. But it's been straight there. It's not been they've not held back with it at all. So I think hopefully it's a time for the arts to come together. I was talking about it with a musician I was interviewing, quite a high profile one the other day for season 1 of the podcast, because this will go on to season 2.
Yeah.
And he was saying there's sometimes a bit of an us and them with promoters and musicians, but this is a time where and venues, but this is a time where we've really got to pull together and work together and just try and get through it as a sector. Try and put self-interest aside, really.
Yeah, definitely. It's from an organisational standpoint, we generally kind of work with people like yourselves who are very kind of who understand like kind of it is a non-for-profit thing, so it's all kind of quite communal anyway. But I do know obviously that there are other sides of the industry that they can be quite cutthroat, and can be quite individual. So it's really good to hear that kind of example of kind of community and sector coming together quite nicely.
Yeah, I mean, can you just talk a little bit about how you program an event? So, for instance, I'm thinking of some of the events we've worked on together, the Hounslow Carnival, the stuff we did in Corby. How much of it is because I presume you went into this kind of role for a number of reasons. One would be that you're instinctively a creative person. How much creativity do you get in that, or does it vary, or is it like, no, here's the brief, off you go, or how much kind of sway do you get in it?
It can really vary. So if I go for Corby to begin with, that initially started as Artreach being brought in to work with a local community group that was friends of the local woodland group, and they wanted to put on an event in the local woodland there in Corby. That was just on the outskirts of Corby. Artreach came in, helped them out, and then it went down really, really well, had really good attendance. So the idea was, right, let's bring it into the town centre, do a bit more work there. So Corby is an area that has got a lot of woodland. There is a large woodland called Thurasell Woods in the town centre, and that kind of made a really natural space to do that event. So we turned it into a Mardi Gras event,
which was where we came in.
Yes. So part of that was delivering outdoor theatre projects. Part of that was delivering illuminated sculpture trails. So we worked with organisations there, an organisation called Same Sky. Did the illuminated sculpture trails there for a few years, and then we also had stuff like the community parade, which is what was led by Brasstats, and that came from talking with a local steering group. So we created a local steering group made up of the theatre, of a kind of a bridge organisation, of the library, of the arts centre, and of the local authority.
So like different stakeholders, kind of.
Yeah. I basically asked them what they wanted to get out of it. There was a large scale event there called Grow Festival, which happened in the summer. Corby Mardi Gras happened in February, March time, and this year, for the first time, those two events actually came together. So that kind of all kind of became one event, and that's kind of shown a really good progress from this event that started off as being working with this kind of Friends of the Woodland group, put on a little trail, have a couple of bands play, and then that turned into this large scale thing. I think the kind of audience figures for the last Mardi Gras was about 7,000, which nice. Over the course of the day, and for somewhere like Corby, that's really, really good engagement.
That's massive, yeah.
Get people in. Hounslow was a little bit different. So Hounslow initially started off as confusingly, the festival was called Night of Festivals. It used to take place at night, and then it kind of transformed into something else when it didn't. So the name always kind of had a little bit of confusion around it. But essentially, it was a touring event that went to different low engagement areas, incorporated carnival, incorporated theatre, incorporated dance, and incorporated music to kind of highlight and illuminate the high streets of a certain place. Hounslow was the one example where we kept coming back. So I worked on 5 Hounslow events every year. So initially I worked as a stage manager for RH Freelance. So Hounslow was one of those ones that I went down and looked after there. And then as I joined the team permanently in the office, I then helped produce it as well. So that changed from being this kind of the same format that we used in other places, you know, drop in the carnival group, Mandinga Arts, and then usually work with a band, varying different bands, but including brass studs as well. And then we basically started getting more and more input from the local people. And because we worked there over the course of a few years, we kind of really got embedded into that community. People talked to us more. We kind of became more of a fixture. So that event ended up keeping those same elements, keeping the carnival, keeping the puppets that they always used to work with in the carnival, keep working with Mandinga. But the focus kind of switched. Initially, the festival was based on freedom. But then that kind of then switched into a bit more of a focus on the local heritage. And also on mental health. So the last year that I worked on the event, it had a mental health and well-being theme running throughout, and it was the freedom to be who you are, which, as you'll probably see, working in the arts, mental health is a big topic now.
It is,
more so than it ever has been. So we work with artists on delivering installations with a mental health theme, different relaxation techniques, kind of working with these kind of things and trying to marry them up with some performance as well. And it went down really well. And so and the fact that we stayed there for 5 years, I think is testament to how much the audience engaged with it, because before that it was very much, we'll take it here, then we'll go somewhere else, then we'll go somewhere else, then we'll go somewhere else. Whereas the Hounslow one stuck.
I should imagine it's quite a tough kind of thing that sometimes you might go into a place, I'm not talking Hounslow here because obviously that worked out really well, but you might go into a place and do something, you think, yeah, there's potential here, we could build this up, and then for probably a number of different reasons, you don't end up going back, or you only do a couple, or you don't get the support there that you need. And then on the other side of the coin, you've got your communities like Hounslow and Corby, where you, like you said, you become really embedded in those communities and probably quite attached.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's been a few times when we've done, so like we did a specific tour of the Night of Festivals brand to Leicester, Nottingham, Slough, and Boston in Lincolnshire. I always have to say Boston in Lincolnshire because for some reason I think that people are going to think I'm in Boston in America.
In America, yeah.
which is ridiculous because of course it's not going to be there. But it's my brain.
You never know. You never know, Ollie. You never know.
But yeah. So the Boston one, for example, rained a lot when we were doing that event. And had fairly low numbers in terms of turnout, and that didn't catch on as much as the other one. The Slough one went down really well, and Artreach actually then went back and did more work in Slough a couple of years later. So that kind of came from a different kind of aspect, but that showed a bit of success there. But the Nottingham events were early days, so before I was working for the organisation. That was like the initial. The initial starting point for that festival was in Nottingham, and like you look back on the program, early days, Giles Peterson played.
Oh wow! Okay.
At the event, which is really strange. Like it seems so strange considering what it then became, this kind of very much community orientated event. Giles Peterson played the first event there, but then we also did special versions of that festival as well, including one commemorating the Rugby World Cup in Leicester,
Oh, I remember that.
which
Yeah.
which was great. Really, really good fun there. We had different organisations from across Europe come and perform as part of that.
Mm.
And then also, one of my favourite versions of that event was commemorating the 70th anniversary of South Asian partition
Oh,
between
right.
India
Okay.
and Pakistan. So it was a really, obviously, being based in Leicester yourself, you kind of know the
Yeah.
strong South Asian arts.
That's a big
Here.
that's quite a prevalent event actually. Yeah, it would be in
Yeah,
Leicester.
so
Yeah.
having a special event there was really, really great and had really good reaction to the audience as well.
I mean, one difference. Obviously, the reason for getting you on the podcast was it was when I thought about the whole touring aspect of your job. You know, you go into different cities, and obviously there's lots of challenges in there of trying to make that work, because the political landscape, and I don't mean like left wing, right wing. I mean the tensions between organisations, or the level of cooperation between different organisations in each city or borough that you go into is completely different. The dynamics are completely different.
Yeah, definitely.
And you've got to try and pull all that together, haven't you? You're the kind of person coming in and going, I'm sure you've been into some situations where you've got to go, okay, guys, right, I know you might not agree on everything, but we've got to make this day work.
Yeah, so we kind of when working for Artreach, we kind of went in with a almost like a bridge organisation feel, in that we're going to bring these groups together. We're going to bring the local council into it as well. We're going to try and kind of work across the town or city to make an event that they're going to be proud of. And the kind of the challenge to that is, if it's a low engagement area, it's a low engagement area for a reason. That people aren't as engaged there, so you kind of have to get that out of them. But also, when you're going from place to place to place, you're always having to start from scratch. You always have to start a new base. You've not got an established audience, and Artreach, it does really good work, but it's not nationally known as an organisation. The name doesn't necessarily carry a stigma that you're going to go into this kind of place and they're going to go, oh, it's Artreach. Yeah, we know exactly what we're getting. So there's always this sense of unfamiliarity there. So you're having to kind of sell yourself to the people you're trying to work with, let alone the audiences that you're trying to get. So it's a constant kind of battle for trust that you're going to deliver a good job.
Yeah, that's right. And then I guess once you've been in that first year and they can see that it's worth sticking with, then that's when the relationships start to come, and you can really treat it as that place as your baby, and we're going to go back and okay, how can we improve it this year, and you've got constant dialogue with the the powers that be and stuff. I should imagine that's quite a satisfying feeling once you've sort of proved yourself, for want of a better phrase.
Yeah, definitely. I kind of felt that a lot with Corby. That kind of became. So we had a team at Artreach where people were working on different events. We worked on a festival called Journeys Festival, which is a refugee and asylum seeker artist festival.
Was that in Leicester as well? Did you do?
Leicester was the original Journeys Festival. That's carried on going.
My mum got involved in that. I think that's how she knew you. Yeah, because she was all kind of I talk about my job as if it's quite sort of cool, and she's going, oh yeah, I know Oli Page. Like, don't be daft. Of course I know.
And I think also I think I volunteered with your mum upstairs at the Western.
The theatre
as well.
Yeah. I really hope that keeps going after the lockdown, because it's a little bit uncertain with the pub anyway, isn't it? It's
they've changed owners, haven't they?
They've handed it back to Everard. So I really hope. I mean, I've heard that the theatre is completely separate anyway.
Yes,
and it's kind of got a consortium type ownership now, isn't it? Like a few of them. So I'm hoping that they're able to survive afterwards, because it's a good little gem of Leicester, that is.
Yeah, but yes, as we were saying with Corby, that kind of became my baby a little bit. I kind of took on the lead role of that, and kind of worked across the board on that. So going from fundraising for it to programming it to being the the liaison, the coordinator, to
Yeah.
then being the event manager on the day.
Yeah.
I was kind of involved in every aspect of that, and that kind of became like my thing. So I took a lot of pride in that, and obviously getting you guys on board, getting Brass Studs on board was brilliant, because I knew how good you guys were, and I knew you were going to deliver a good job. So when I kind of can go into an event with confidence, it's really, really great, because you're always a little bit uncertain, especially when it's that event was the first event that I'd solely been event manager for, so that was a big challenge, but one that we came through quite well.
Yeah, you've got to have that first one, haven't you? You've got to take that kind of leap, and I guess going into a challenge like that, knowing that you've got good suppliers, as it were. You're bringing in a strong team with you, whether that's a band or it's the Mandinga, is it, the performers using hounds?
Yeah, Mandinga, the carnival group.
I know you've always spoke highly of them to me as well when we've spoken. So if you go into it with knowing that the team around you in various areas are going to execute, then I guess that puts your mind at ease to a certain extent.
Yeah, and because obviously we talked about a bit of unfamiliarity earlier. One thing that you can, actively work on is the team that you work with. So we quite often would work with Stage Right Productions, who are based in Northampton, who provided the stage and technical support there. So a massive shout out to them. I think they're brilliant at what they do. And they were always really supportive, and knowing that you kind of, like you said, have suppliers that you work with that are consistent, that are reliable, that are always going to do a good job, and also be a pleasure to work with as well. And that makes it 10 times easier.
Yeah, I guess, and you end up becoming friends with them, like we have, we talk fairly regularly, and we, you're doing this with me. I've done an interview on your Eye on Leicester as well, and you end up kind of working together on other things, don't you, as well? So
yeah, and networking is such a massive part of the industry in Leicester, especially because Leicester's not the biggest city, so you do get a sense of everyone kind of knows everyone.
Yeah, absolutely, it's very tight knit.
Yeah, and so that sometimes you can worry that becomes cliquey, or something like that. But also you kind of know that what you're getting with people, and you know that everyone is genuinely nice, and everyone wants the best, and so it's a nice feeling. And so so doing Eye on Leicester's been great, because I've been able to kind of work on networks that I've already got, but then also establish some new ones as well.
Yeah, and just quickly, where can we find that? Is it it's an Instagram based?
Instagram and a website. So it's kind of one of the things I should have really said at the top when you said like how I've kind of started working in lockdown and had the challenges that I've had there. One of the main things that I've been able to do is kind of self-start some new projects.
Yeah.
And Eye on Leicester was one of them. It's something that I've been trying to do for a while. But yeah, so that's a kind of a written interview series based on Leicester creative people, not just like artists and the kind of the frontline talent, but also people who work behind the scenes as well. So one of our most popular interviews that we've done has been with the Attenborough Arts Centre programmer John Kirby.
Yeah.
He's just such a nice guy, and did a really, really interesting interview there. But yeah, it's www.eyeonleicester.co.uk, and then also on Instagram @eyeonleicester.
Brilliant. Well, I look forward to checking more of those interviews out. I've enjoyed them so far. Thanks for sort of featuring me on that as well. I appreciate it, Oli.
Yeah, no, it's really good to get I think as complete a sense of the arts community in Leicester as possible. So I'm really hoping to get as wide a variety of people from different backgrounds, different art forms, different perspectives as well. So it's been great. We've just the Niall Barrows that's just come out yesterday has gone down really, really well, and that's just because Niall writes in such a way that is so positive.
He is. He's a lovely, lovely soul. Niall is.
Yeah, and it's just really nice to listen to, and it's really kind of affirming.
And it comes across in his music as well. You know, he's very much a positive guy, and I've got a lot of time for him and all the old By the Rivers boys, really. Because
definitely.
I did a little stint with them as a trumpet player, and it's some of the best times I've had on the road. Like going abroad with them it was such a laugh, and it was so genuine. There was no kind of hidden stuff or any kind of maliciousness or anything like that. It was a complete joy. One of the best times of my life, you know.
That's really nice to hear.
So, Oli, thank you very much for your time with doing the interview. It's good to. When I started the podcast, I didn't want to. It'd be very easy for me to just interview musician after singer after, you know, and just get all people sort of similar to myself. But I'm trying to sort of break out of that a little bit, and I think today's conversation has been a big step forward in that. So, thank you very much.
Thanks very much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure, and it's nice to hear people talking in such a positive way, because I think when you've got something like lockdown kind of happening, staying positive and keeping your mental health topped up, and sometimes it can be hard to motivate yourself to do new things.
Absolutely.
So it's really nice to talk.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot, Oli.
No worries. Thanks very much.
Cheers. Thank you so much for joining me for episode 4, season 2 of On the Road With, where I talk to touring professionals from the entertainment and performing arts industries. Today's guest was Mr. Oli Page, a lovely guy, and a really insightful conversation about what he does on a day-to-day basis. So I'd like to sincerely thank Oli for his time. If you like what you're hearing, please do follow, subscribe and like us wherever you get your podcast fix. And you can also keep in touch with us on social media. So it's Gareth John Music on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. And I'll be posting updates about the show, including new episodes and bonus content, etc. on those platforms. If you've got any guest suggestions or any feedback on the episodes at all, you can email me directly as well. It's garethrdjohn@gmail.com. If you'd also like to leave us a review at Apple Podcasts, that really does help spread the word of the podcast far and wide. That'd be absolutely fantastic. Although today's guest wasn't a music guest as such, I'm going to use the opportunity to play the show out with my upcoming single, You'll Never Fade Away. Take care now. Bye-bye. I've always known you from the very first day, and I've always loved your way. We're the best friends, and I'm proud to be the same as you in so many ways. It's not the ending, I wish you could see. Your love will never be undone. Life might be cloudy, it's not always clear, but I'm always here to hold your heart. You're always there for me. That's how we're supposed to be. But you'll never fade away. You're with me to stay. I try to make you as proud as can be. It warms me to see you smile. You're in the back row, smiling at the years, and I'm just a welling up inside. If I could make you well, it's just so hard to tell, but you'll never fade away. You're with me to stay. times and bad. You're in my corner from the start.